Okay, come here because I've only got 30 seconds to make my point, so I've got to be quick. All right? Listen, I'm sick of teams committing crimes on the field, 4 penalties, just to stop opposition scoring. This is what I want. 3 penalties, yellow card. And then what the players will do is they'll auto-regulate. Is that a word? Self-regulate, that's a better word, right? That means that the players will start taking control of the rules. So, what happens then? Refs got a little bit less to do. And then we won't see 4 minutes wasted for scrums in the last 10 minutes or a kicker taking 10 minutes. Right, I'm out. That's my 30 seconds gone. Bye.
Well, what a way to start the show. Tēnā koutou katoa and welcome into the breakdown for another week. The debate, or should I say rant, has already begun. Sir John Kerwin, you got more than 30 seconds now. Justin Marshall filling in for Mills Muliaina and Jeff back as well. What do you reckon? Are you on board?
I reckon he's in the wrong seat. He wants to take over the show, so maybe you guys should flop.
That won't be the only rant.
Idea. Yeah, I like it as an idea. Like, there's been continual infringements and it's hampering the game, slowing it down. If players knew there was a severe consequence and then coaches knew that there was, they'd really hone in on discipline. So, yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I agree with you. In the first minute of the show.
That could quite
record that at home, record that. I'm going to need that.
Be the last time he agrees with you tonight.
Totally.
Absolutely. Look, it's not a bad idea. I mean, bottom line, the right people need to be listening, but we want to see as much rugby as we possibly can. We see teams trying to defend leads, they get under pressure, they continually infringe, and they're not punished. The fact we want to see points scored, this would be a great way to see teams put under a different type of pressure. Let's see whether or not it gets to the people up high.
Well, for me, we need to stop adding rules, Marshy. It seems that, like last year, they said, oh, now a player can't lean over and they've got to support their own body weight. So now you see them we're back to bridging. So every time we're trying to change something to speed the game up, we add a rule. I reckon we need to take some rules out and just let the players live the consequences.
I agree.
Well, we've been talking about refereeing for years, haven't we? Remember the time when Justin Marshall took matters into his own hands?
Oh, not again.
Yeah. It wasn't me.
Every time on the show.
It wasn't me.
I'll throw my toys out of the cot again.
If you walk off set right now, we wouldn't blame you.
Oh, yes, boy. Yeah, that's me.
Did you send yourself off?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
I binned myself.
That is, I think, was the best piece of reverse psychology I have ever, because then all of a sudden they weren't in control. You were in control, and then you turned around and said, well, no, I'm not going to let you do that. You're going to stay. Oh, that is brilliant.
Yeah, and I live it. And the best part of it that nobody sees is George Stein's out on this, George Gregan. I get a lecture here. But you can see there's George. And the whole time he was enjoying every single minute of this. And he was saying to me as I was walking away, Marshy, where are you going? Mate, the game's still going on, Marshy. Where are you going? You've lost the plot.
I have seen that on the first tee, too.
That is
I've seen that on the first tee.
Yeah,
that storming off back to the bag.
It's great to have you back on the show.
It's lovely to be here. I so appreciate that as well, everybody. Thank you very much.
But the reason why you are on the show after a very, very big weekend of rugby is because one of our own, Mills Muliaina, well, he has contracted the bug. It's not scary. Most people that you know, someone that you know has either got it or a close contact around the country right now. But Mills, you're showing us that you are safe and sound. How are you feeling? Well,
he's gone.
Well,
COVID freezes you. Look at that. Yeah, Mills. That's the best thing you've said all year.
I'm frozen.
You're back.
You're back.
You're back.
I'm very well, thanks. I'm very well. How is that? Is that all right?
You're good.
No, he's frozen again. But you know
I'm
what?
very well.
Mills, he's in the basement. Because he's isolating, he is down in the basement in his house. You can see his treadmill or roll behind him. He attempted to go on that to try and blow out the cobwebs. 9 minutes was his time that he lasted.
That's how long he lasted?
He was disappointed in himself.
I didn't last that long, did I? I didn't last that long, did I, guys? Sorry about that. How's this? Is it better?
Intermittent.
You're there or thereabouts, Mills. There or thereabouts. But thanks for coming on and showing that you're safe, Mills.
Go on, Skids.
All the very best in the basement for the next 10 days while you're in isolation. Great to hear from Mills, though. But there is something special that he wanted to talk about, a cause that's very close to his heart. Take a look at this, because very sad news. His nephew, Rico Muliaina, is a Year 13 student at Southland Boys High School, and he has been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, a cancer of the lymphatic system. Now they have created Raising for Rico by bidding on a silent auction. All funds that will be raised will go towards Rico and his family as he undergoes chemotherapy. Jump onto that link to check out what auction items are up for grabs. There's 28 items. There's incredible auction items as well. The Barretts have donated 3 items. Mills is actually putting up a very special jersey, JK, you have one of. They're very few and far between. But that's the 1987 jersey and 2011 World Cup jersey.
Yeah, I have it in my office. It's signed by both sides, so obviously it was a long time between drinks. So the 87 team signed it as well, so I've got one of those. So get in behind Rico and get in there and bid some great prizes and supporting Mills and his nephew there, and great cause, so get into it, people.
Very much so. Well, let's get into the weekend's action now, because round 3 Super Rugby Pacifica was upon us, and it was a great weekend for the Pacifica sides. In fact, starting off with Moana Pacifica, did anyone expect this display from a side, Jeff, that had been in isolation for 14 days in Queenstown? They'd missed the first 2 rounds of the competition, and they were the newcomers.
What we knew they were going to bring was passion, and we saw that. And I was fortunate enough to be there. Marsha, you were commentating on it. I was in the empty stadium, and I heard every tackle that was being made, and they brought it to a Crusaders team that, look, it was a little bit inexperienced. Scott Robertson had rolled the dice a little bit. I don't think he knew what to expect, but what they did do, JK, is they arrived and said, you know what, we're going to bring energy, passion. They came in and made a statement. Their first try was something spectacular, and I think that gave them the confidence and a platform to build from. This was the perfect start. Other than a win, it couldn't have been better for them.
I just thought they looked really well drilled. I actually wasn't worried, Marshy, about the COVID and the extra training. I thought that was a positive. I was worried about how they performed in the pre-season game against the Chiefs. I thought they were way off. And I was really worried about this game, and I thought this could be a walkover. So I'm incredibly happy and pleased that they come out and were competitive and probably can only get better.
Oh, they'll definitely get better. Like the biggest question will be how they handle the attrition rate and the depth that they've got within their squad. When they get some key players out, that's where other teams who have been in this competition for a long time are hardened. But, really positive start. The stamina was incredible. I thought they'd run out of steam. There was one stage there where Sekope Kepu, he won't mind me saying this, Sekope, will you? Hopefully not. But he was just completely gassed. He was out of it, and he was watching his teammates defend their line, but he was trying to get back in the defensive line. It took him 2 rucks. But the rest of the boys, they fronted up. All 14 of them stood up until Kepu got back, and that showed their character. They were prepared to defend their line with everything they had, and what a performance it was.
Do you think they could surprise some teams?
Oh,
Jeff, you've got a hot take, don't you?
Oh, well, I look at it and I think that the Australian team should be very fortunate that they're not in the Australian Conference. The fact that they have to play 8 games against New Zealand sides is obviously going to work against them. For the Drua themselves, it's a huge opportunity for them because they were so good on the weekend. But there are little things that I saw. The fact that they were strong enough up front for me in terms of their scrum held up pretty well. Now, look, some of the big guns weren't there for the Crusaders. But for me, here's a team that I think if they're playing the Australian sides, they'll get more than 1 or 2 wins. They'd be good enough to go out and be competitive. I think they still could get those. We've got to remember that the top 8 teams make the playoffs in this competition out of 12. I wouldn't be surprised to see either of these sides find a way into the playoffs later on in the year.
I don't know, Goldie, if I agree with you, because I think playing against the New Zealand sides is going to set you up for the next 5 or 10 years.
Maybe, yep.
You know, I think if you can stay on the pitch, like Marcy said, and you can get through this 5 or 6 games and actually start getting used to the intensity, getting used to the talent, getting used to defensive patterns when you got, you know, Jordy Barrett running at you, that's going to put you in good stead when it does open up. You know, I think it's a positive.
Harder for Moana Pacifica, isn't it? Because, like, the Drua, yes, there's a couple of games there they're capable of winning, but for Moana Pacifica against those 5 New Zealand teams that are really hard and really resilient and full of depth. And the worst thing for them, with the greatest respect, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that is the game that they target, all of those teams, and they target a bonus point out of that game. So the New Zealand teams are going to go at Moana Pacifica with everything they've got. So that's really hard for them because they're getting combative games every week.
Saying that, though, the Crusaders rested some key guys, some big guys.
But nearly didn't
get the bonus point.
Yeah.
I think that has put every other team on notice.
Yes, big time.
You can't sit on your laurels. You can't just expect to go in there and win it. And I don't think anyone does. But they thought maybe the experience and speed would put them on the back foot. They come out there and they were right there. Halfway through the second half, they had a chance. Just relax for a moment and the Crusaders struck. What
about the Ndrua? They have proved that they are not here just to make up the numbers, haven't they, JK?
Yeah, I was really concerned, but they were really good. The first couple of weeks, it felt like they were trying to play a style that was a bit sort of, I don't know, keeping them a bit too constrained. And then last week I saw that Fijian flair, that, you know, that bubbly confidence that they get once they start running with the ball. So, you know, I think it was a real revelation. Good on them. I'm stoked.
Yeah, well, question I'll ask you then, Jeff, is that performance a performance that is comparable considering the opposition they played? Easily the Rebels are way off where they've been in the past. So great performance from them to get that win, and that'll do them a massive amount of confidence, but is it a false sense of actually where they're at against the other four teams?
Yeah, and you could probably ask the question in some way for Moana Pacifica as well. It wasn't a full-strength Crusaders team, but I look at it and you've got to go out there and perform, and what I saw from them and how dangerous they could be, and maybe they've worked out in regards to the way that they should play the game. But we shouldn't forget, this is a team that went into the National Rugby Championship in Australia, and in the second year they won it. That's the level of ability and talent we're talking here. Good. And they're only going to get better with experience, and they've got a great coaching team. So I look all around and go, you know what? Both of these sides have a massive upside, but for me, the Drua are the team that have the massive opportunity.
They're learning quickly, aren't they? And we're going to hear from their head coach very soon. But first, let's relive the historic moment.
Fearless. And has Mira got the pace to get away? Yes, he has. History. First ever Drua home game, and it's all celebrations for the Fijian Drua.
Yeah, this is a competition that has been going 26 years, and it only took a couple of weeks for the Fijian Ndrua to get their first scalp in Super Rugby Pacific. Joining us now is their head coach, live from Lennox Head, their base in New South Wales, Mick Byrne. Thank you so much for coming on our program. I imagine after the weekend there must be a pretty good buzz in that camp.
Yeah, I think the guys are very excited about being able to get a win on the board. It's been a couple of weeks of trying to get our game right. Some loose carries early on gave the opposition too much ball, and we just had to keep chasing the game. Both games we played, the second half we probably got the confidence from how we performed the second half against the Waratahs and the Brumbies, and 14-0 down on Friday night left us a little bit short, but we got back into the game, and excited for the boys to have a win.
Mickey, great to see you, my friend.
Okay, great to see you.
I miss you, mate. I miss you. Hey, listen, I was worried last week. Mickey, I was worried for you. I was worried for the team. It looked like you were, struggling with the pace and that, but just a complete turnaround. How are you finding the balance between getting them to play with that Fijian flair that we know, but also doing some of the basics?
Yeah, I think that's the key, JK. I think the boys themselves owned up to it in the first week, or admitted that the pace caught them out a little bit in that first week. They were getting hit before they were expecting to get hit. They were ready to make tackles and a little bit slow off the mark, or they're just getting hit before they were ready. And, we trained for it, but until you get out there on game, do you really sense it? So I think for us, getting through those 2 weeks and getting ready for it, I thought we saw the boys catch up to the pace pretty well on Friday night.
Mick, great to have a chat with you. We've had some deep and meaningfuls about the game of rugby from time to time, and it's great to see you getting that opportunity as a head coach. In terms of taking this team and this group forward and thinking in the long term, Do you need more help from World Rugby, from New Zealand Rugby, from Australian Rugby to keep progressing forward? And what is it they could do?
Yeah, I think you never say no to more help, Goldie, but I think once we get on the island, our challenge is going to be we're going to unearth some pretty talented players like we did on Friday night, and like all Super Rugby teams, we expect to lose a bit of that talent, no different to the Australian and New Zealand sides. But when we get back on the island, we hope to unearth, another half a dozen players that are ready to step into the breach. And I think we're getting good support at the moment. There's no question we're getting great support. The facility we've got at Lennox Head is awesome for us. It's just how we're going to be able to develop the next group of players, creating a high performance centre back on the islands, being able to bring through those young players and get them ready, because we know, like all Super Rugby teams down here, Australia, New Zealand, we're going to lose some of our talent to the north. And as long as we've got the players to replace them, that's probably where our help's needed.
Mick, Marshy here, good to see you, mate. I think the last time that we were locking horns with rugby, you were kicking coach for the All Blacks, trying to teach everybody how to punt the ball correctly, and I was on my way out of the All Blacks, to be perfectly honest. But what I wanted to ask you, mate, was, look, the Fijians, we know, love to play off the ball, but they don't often get taught a lot about defence. I think you've been pretty good in that area. Has that taken quite a bit of work to get up to speed there?
Look, we focused on a couple of things pre-season. Was our fitness and our defence. Brad Harris has been enormous in that area. He's worked with the Fijian guys with their 7 squad, and he's done a lot of international work in the 15s game. And the two areas that we focused on prior to Christmas was defence and fitness. And I'm pleased with both the results of both those. We've been able to fight strong in the second half. We've been able to keep our players going reasonably well to the 80th minute, and our defence has held up. I mean, we've created avoidable penalties and turnovers in the first 2 games. Were probably the result of most of the points came from us starting with the ball or a little bit of ill discipline. So. From the set-piece plays, etc., our defence has been holding up well, and we'll continue to work on that.
Mickey, you've been nominated, and it's true, as one of the greatest school coaches of our time. I think you worked for the All Blacks for 10 years. You worked with me in Japan. You've worked in Scotland. I was so excited for you that you're now a head coach. But what has been the biggest change for you, my friend? Coming from being an assistant for many years and now being a head coach, how's that been?
Yeah, I'd say I struggled early, JK, probably with the detail. Like I kept getting bogged down trying to get the detail right instead of letting everyone get on with it and just take a more strategic view. But we went through that, got through that period. But for me, it's hard after the detail. You've been looking at the game for 30 years and. Now you just got to sit back and make sure it's all falling into place from a strategic point of view. So, I'll put my hand up there. That was probably an area that I didn't get right in the first few weeks, but certainly with the coaching staff, with Glenn Jackson alongside Brad and Simon Raouli, doing a great work in the forward pack with our scrum and etc. Just taking that step back now and allowing all the detail, it'll happen. The detail will come, and it's just trusting the processes that we're working on that we'll get the players there in time.
Mick, thank you so much for coming on our program. Once again, congratulations of the first of many victories, and also scary thought to know that you've got half a dozen other players to unleash in the islands as well. We can't wait to see more of you. Yeah, great. Thanks very much for having us on. And we're looking forward to starting our week after a win, and I'm sure there'll be great spirit in the camp. Brilliant. Mick Byrne there joining us out of the Fijian Indra camp in Lennox Head, New South Wales, Australia. This is what the competition needs, isn't it? Well, that's what I brought in for, to bring that energy, to bring something different, Marshy. That's exactly what we saw on the weekend. And the fact they brought out their flair. You talked about some of the opposition, but in the end, you've still got to be good enough to take it. And I honestly and sincerely believe that the athletes that they continue to find, once they get more and more exposure, and we saw it last year when Fiji played the All Blacks, what they're capable of. I think the most
warming and pleasing thing to come out of the round was the performance of the Endura and Moana Pacifica, because there was this ill feeling going around that they're going to get completely annihilated each week. For them to win and Moana Pacifica to be so strong was outstanding. We've got two teams that are going to contribute to this competition. Brilliant.
Let's go back to the political reason as well. The Pacifica need to be looked after in this global game. And part of that is putting them into Super Rugby, and they're here to stay, and they should be here to stay. And the more exposure they get, the better they'll get. Like you talked about the Fijian, that was a number 7 that got the runaway try, and no one caught.
Amazing.
You know, if we can give them consistent rugby, they will become the forces that they were, you know, in the early parts of World Cup. So I'm just really excited. It's fantastic.
Well, Marshy, while you're here, we're going to make you work for your money. So you've been at all the grounds across the weekend. You've been at basically every game. What have you noticed? What's trending from the first couple of weeks of Super Rugby?
Yeah, look, in the first 3 rounds, what I have noticed is look, the New Zealand teams know each other so very, very well. And that's defensively, and they know individuals. But what I've picked up on is some opportunities that they're starting to recognise, and maybe that's come from the outside to in defence pressure that they're also getting from the Northern Hemisphere. So here's some clips to reinforce that. And both of these clips are from the left-hand side from these two teams. So first of all, it's the Blues. Now you can see the transition runner out the back, which is Pierre Feta, coming across. Now his speed gets outside that inside defender. So here we go again. As you get fixed, the defenders are in tight. The one pass to the width, and ironically it's the fullback as well, his speed and gas onto the ball is beating that defender that's turning in and is narrow. So the teams are recognising that the ball can be your friend, and depth, more importantly, can be a real ally for you. Don't get too flat. Don't let those defenders get right up in your face and cut you off before you run out of time.
If we could we just see that again? Because I think the interesting thing for me is Northern Hemisphere, they close the gate a lot, right? So they're doing that. We've struggled with it in the past. So do we have that shot? Because the interesting thing for me is actually Sevu Reece actually looked like he was there for a wide kick, but then he's actually got to do a half moon and get back into position. So, you know, while you're saying there's differences, actually it's hard to adjust. So if you just watch the bottom of your screen here, watch Sevu Reece, he's actually going backwards to realign, to get back into play, and that's not easy. They're different skill sets for wingers.
In the old days, we used to go back to go forward. And the fact is finding a way to get to the space and put pressure on the defence. And the moment you can get a defence going sideways, Marshy, it's a completely different proposition. The fact you can change angles, you can hold players by using your footwork. And what Sevu Reece did there, he set up for a cross kick, right? And so he stretched the defence out, then he comes back in and goes back to the outside. Players in motion, the ball will always beat the man. That's why we've resorted to cross kicks, right? Is the way you use the ball versus and running into space. We've got skill, we've got speed, rather than taking it to the line and being obsessed with the gain line.
And the reason I wanted to highlight that was because they're all in the same zone, but they're also defending your line. And what's happening is there was enough defenders there. So there was an equal amount of defenders as there were attackers, but the defence is really, really narrow. So you can see there's plenty of defenders on their feet, but they're so narrow and they're leaving that one player exposed. I think it's Marty Banks. And the depth is the key, because if you're too flat there, it'll get cut off here. You know, but the depth of the first receiver there, I think it's Fergus Burke, creates the space and then the momentum onto the ball. Defenders just can't cope. They can have 20 players out there.
So what do the defensive coaches do besides spending a whole lot of sleepless nights? Because actually one-out defence or closing the gate defence in New Zealand has only ever been an option. But the last 6 months, I've seen it a lot more as the option. So do we have to go back and go, well, actually, we'll do it occasionally again just to surprise the opposition?
At times, but I think in both instances there, what has happened is the last defending player isn't trusting that the inside player is going to tackle the fullback. Both times he did, but right at the pivotal moment when that player had to make a decision. Both times Banks and whoever the Chiefs player was turned in. But both the fullbacks actually got tackled. So that means it should have been defender on defender, but it's the stress it's creating and the anxiety. The coaches have got to say, mate, just stay out. Stay out. He'll get him. If he doesn't get him, just blame him.
I used to.
It's his tackle.
Well, I trusted the inside every time. So I trusted the inside to get there every time. Quite often I was tackling the touch judge.
Yeah.
That was the last man, I thought, quite often. But when you do have that trust, but by the same thing, depth and use of speed and the ball stresses the defence rather than continually just pounding away with your fantastic pod system. You love JK, which we'll get into depth next week. I'm going to look hard into the fact how we're not maybe creating as much quick ball as we possibly can.
I've been waiting for JK to bring up a marriage once again this week, but the love affair continues with the Blues, JK. You're smiling, and that's because the Blues just out of jail.
Oh, there's a lot to love. There's a lot to love, people. I can't believe this. Everyone's saying just. How good was that Chiefs team? Anyone else around the country go, I'm glad I won. Sam Cane, Retallick, Anton Leonard-Brown coming off the bench, Brad Weber. That's a really good Chiefs side, and we won. So that's a great performance. Were they shaky at times? Yeah, but I actually think, and Marcia and I discussed this before, I think last 10 minutes last week really messed with their confidence. For 70 last week, they were unbelievable. Yesterday, I saw a little bit of, I'm worried we need to win. But they ground out a great win against a really good team.
Well, look, under pressure for Stephen Perofeta. To
Yeah.
make a sideline conversion, to put it in front, and here's a guy who's been in and out of the starting lineup of the Blues for the last couple of seasons. He gets his chance to start. He created the space on the outside to deliver a pass to score a try, and then kicks a conversion. Look, they didn't do themselves any favours, and Tom Robinson will give him a hard look at the fact the decisions he made because of that desperation you're talking about in the last 2 minutes almost cost them the game, but I think this is a massive confidence boost. Other than the injuries, Marshy, the injuries are a concern.
Yeah, yes,
Harry
they
Plummer and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, we're not sure how long he's going to be out for, but that's their two midfield options at 12 that they now don't have. It's a concern.
I take your point. It was a good Chiefs side, and they are going to be a very good side all season. But it's not the just. It's the fact, and Leon McDonald admitted it. He said, we were better last week and we lost. It was the drop-off in the accuracy and the tempo, and like I was just completely blown away by how good they were in that first week, and they got duped by a miracle. But their drop-off when there was more pressure, more expectation and a must-win in some of the accuracy levels was a bit of a worry for me. And that's, I think, what's clouding people's...
Why are you
making
laughing?
them anxious. Well, you're not anxious. Like, I
I'm
know.
not anxious.
Like, you're on the train, you're up the front, you're tooting the horn. It's like, well, go.
Gravy train.
All I was saying is anyone here on the television...
The WhatsApp goes real quick, all of a sudden
And
they
then
go,
silence.
well...
Did anyone here on the television, why isn't Jordy Barrett taking the kick? That was me. I couldn't believe it. Seriously, like, he's on. It's the biggest kick of the season, and Stephen Perofeta stood up and did it. And he's been outstanding, by the way, so no disrespect to you, mate. But I just thought, I'm going, you take it, Bowden.
Yeah, but he had a really big NPC last year. The Bunnings NPC, Stephen
From a
Perofeta.
kicking point of view.
From a kicking point of view, kicked really well for Taranaki.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, but
really,
mate,
really good.
You
but under
you were
pressure,
one of the worst. You used to go and get the ball. You try and take the ball off Foxy.
I gave it up really quickly. Yeah, I gave it up.
I just thought it was strange that Bowden...
I'll have a poke for 50. You know what?
30% chance.
Exactly. Yeah, low percentages.
But that was a great kick. It
Someone
took
that
him
won't
5
be seeing
minutes
any
to set
action
up, which is good.
for at least this week anyway. He's already been ruled out of this match. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. But JK, what did you notice about him this week?
Well, one of the old things that you try and do is if someone's really good on attack, you try and tire them out on defence. And they were running down his channel. They were trying to separate the two centres, you know, with moves, and he just had a lot of work to do. I saw one X-Factor play where he stepped, went on the outside, gave it to Rico in the pass that didn't quite finish, but I haven't seen an outside break and then a straighten like that for a long time. So he's put under pressure to make some really good defensive reads. I think he made 7 and...
I made 7 and look, he's no doubt he was in harm's way. This hurts though. This hurts not just the team, but hurts him as well because he was so desperate to play, Marshy. So desperate to get time on the field. It's hard to learn when you're not playing. You know, and we'd seen some really nice signs, and I think he was learning. Now it's just, is it a step backwards? I just think it's a step sideways, where now he has to think, right, I've got to now do recovery. At the same time, I've still got to keep improving as a player without being on the field. I think it's a real challenge. I know you're... I don't have an issue
Watch the
with the
Corridor, he's right.
He's fine.
He's fine.
Are you wandering the corridors at Eden Park? Is that what you're doing?
Good. No, we're going to send him to that healer.
One of your specialists.
The leads.
Who do we send to the healer?
Good luck with that. What's that called? Grappa, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, look, I think probably the biggest problem is the rhythm is going to be lost now. You take that 12 out and all of a sudden the 10 has to adjust, Rieko Ioane has to adjust, and everybody has to, sort of re-look at the rhythm that the backline has. So a bit of synergy will go there with two of us to check out.
Park the Blues for a little bit, AJK, and we'll talk about the Chiefs because much was made about the All Black matchups right across the park. The Sam Cane against Dalton Papali'i, Finlay Christie against Brad Weber. Who do you think won those battles, Marshy?
Wow, that was excellent talent on display, wasn't it? And you look at Brodie Retallick as well. Man, how big was he? But Brad Weber, 100th game. Just a true spirit of the way that he plays the game. Look, he had an outstanding game, but doesn't he every week for the Chiefs? Doesn't he front every week? Like the fact that he got a couple of tries, the energy doesn't dissipate. He's always there. He's always working hard. It was a big game for him, but he's not out there for himself. He's out there for the team. And look, I thought he was outstanding. And that's no blight on Finlay Christie either, who had an excellent game. It's just the measure of the man, and that's why he's an All Black now, because he's probably the one player the most like Aaron Smith that's making Aaron Smith stay at the top of his game, because he's snapping away at his heels.
JK, you said this was the battle for the second spot?
Yeah, and I thought they were both very good, but Brad Weber was exceptional under the pressure of his 100th game. Thought he was outstanding, scored 2 tries, set up the first one against the run of play, which was a really important try for them. So he was outstanding. I just love the resilience in the man. I mean, he hasn't got anything his own way, and he's now pushing. And he would have enjoyed having a good game yesterday. And I also enjoyed the Popoali'i and Sam. I thought Sam Cane was outstanding. Sam Cane yesterday, his decision-making at turnover time was world class. But I also thought Dalton was outstanding in a different way. Probably didn't get as many turnovers, but his tackling was great, his defence was good. He was knocking guys backwards. So that was a really neat competition as well.
Those two sevens for me are international quality sevens in the way that they play the game, and particularly the physical nature that they brought to the contest and continue to bring it. I think Sam Cane's in for a big year. I think he was really disappointed he didn't get to play more rugby last year after a big 2020. I really like the way that he has started this season, and I think it's been impressive, and amongst a number of impressive performances across the competition, but him in particular. I think Dalton Papali'i he'd missed a week, right? So he was a little bit underdone, but I tell you what, Cane's on fire.
There was no doubt it was an emotional evening for Brad Weber as well. 8 years at the Chiefs, and he became their 8th centurion, and this is what it means.
Anything, but guys like Liam Messer, man, Cruden, they were really encouraging to be yourself and be vocal. From that moment, I just knew that the Chiefs was going to be home for me for a long time.
McKenzie got his pass away. Weber's got pace. Oh, brilliant! Absolutely brilliant, Brad Weber.
It makes you pretty proud that I'm about to play 100. There was multiple times I could have gone overseas, but I'm so glad that I stuck around because I've had to fight and battle my whole career. Never been the most talented.
Oh, intercept! Brad Weber, thief in the night.
Been told multiple times that I wouldn't make it as a professional rugby player because I'm too small.
So far, but it's been intercepted. Brad Weber.
I guess that's the best thing about rugby now is that it's a game for all sizes. Yeah, I got called small because I am small. I'm not a big man, but if you've got a big heart and willing to put your body on the line.
Oh boy, this is a try and a half. Brad Weber.
Nakamura. Quick hands up to Nakamura, and then that beautiful pass from McKenzie and Dozaki back to McKenzie, and McKenzie goes in. Now they go a little wide, and the captain, the grubber kick, and McKenzie picks up a double. What a kick from Nakamura. Moriya did really well, and now he gives it to the captain, Nakamura. Nakamura with the no-look pass. McKenzie's gonna get 3. Suntory at their absolute best. What a pass. Great line. Damian McKenzie. 1, 2, and now 3.
Yeah, don't forget about Damian McKenzie. I'm sure his Suntory Sun Goliath bosses will be very impressed with that day out at the office. He scored 31 points, a hat-trick, and knocked over 8 conversions. Not bad. Not a bad day.
Office. Not a bad
I'll take that.
Not bad against Cobo, who won it 2 years ago. Wayne Smith won't be too happy because they were average. But will he come back?
Well, he's in exactly
That's
the
a
same
good question.
situation. The same situation that TJ Perenara was last year. The fact he's not contracted to New Zealand Rugby. He'll be off contract in the middle of the year if he decides to come back, and then he'll have to play his way into the squad. He'll have to play a representative game of some sort, and then he'll have to be re-signed by New Zealand Rugby, and that's the big decision Damien McKenzie will have to make. But Marsha, he's not coming in and walking straight back into the All Blacks, right?
Yeah, and let's face that. The fact is, when he's left New Zealand, he's not had by any means a secure spot. So, he's got that conundrum facing him. And secondly, who has come back from Japan and been on fire? Even great players like Jordy Barrett have struggled to get back into the rhythm of New Zealand rugby. So for all of the 31 points, don't get me wrong, it takes a really monumental effort to get 31 points and to score 3 tries and be on the spot to do that. But, what type of quality is that compared to what the Will Jordans and the Jordy Barretts of the Stephen Petafetas back here are playing? Where's the quality?
He played. Jordy Barrett did this last year. He went to Japan and dominated, right? I mean, that's what he did. I mean, the reality is, I look at the competition, there's no doubt that they're bringing in star players from around the world, but in the end, it's being played on top of the ground. There's been some big scores being up there, and I'm not sure it's as deep this season, Japan League One, as it has been in the past. I know they're trying to get there, and they're trying to re-establish that competition after the disruptions through COVID, but I look at that and go, you know what, that's a far, far cry from playing Super Rugby.
Hang on, let's think about it. We were having a beer with Rito after the game, weren't we? Well, which we sometimes do. And he said that in Japan, he dropped basically 10 kgs.
Yep.
10 or 8 kgs.
Damien doesn't have that to lose.
But that was just because he said that's just the way that the game is over there. I didn't need to have as much physicality and power, and that's the problem. These players come back and they're underdone, so you're not guaranteed to walk into anything.
I think there's another question for me. Like, I couldn't understand why TJ Perenara came home at his age. Amazing player, has been amazing for us, but I thought, you got another 5 years in Japan.
Yeah.
And Damien, if you think about him, I hope he comes back, because I think he is the best bench player that you can put on late in the World Cup. World Cup final, 15 minutes, everyone's tired. He is the best. Can he dominate at fullback? I don't know. But if you're thinking cold professional, if he's going to play like that, they're going to offer him $1.5 million, and he can play there for another 10 years. So from a professional point of view, I hope to see him back, but it's a big decision, eh?
Are you ready to go
We're
again?
thinking about Kirsty and I are going to get her boots back on.
Jordy Barrett, though.
1.5.
Look, he was the form fullback last year. Was a remarkable player last year in the All Black jersey. Stood out for the Hurricanes. He started this year on fire once again. His first 3 performances have been really strong. Look, he's a guy who's on top of his game. He's been with great confidence. He's got that great kicking ability. I think he's one of the best defensive fullbacks in the game. In fact, when he's defending his line, he hits and hits hard. I just don't think, this is even a conversation. The fact, for me, Jordy Barrett is their starting fullback. He is the guy who proved it last year. Now, there's no doubt there's some things in his game he'd like to improve, but for me, I think he's been outstanding. And so, for Damien McKenzie to come back, he'll have plenty of work to do.
Press record, people, because I'm about to agree with Goldie.
Ooh!
So, brilliant.
So,
I only said that because I knew you'd agree.
The other day, I picked my team for the World Cup in 18 months' time.
No, you took the back line.
Yeah.
You ignored the forwards. You ignored the forwards and you picked your back line. Right.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. So, remember I invented sevens. Just get rid of them. But anyway, besides that, for me, Anton Leonard-Brown was not in the conversation, not because I don't think he could be there, but if you're going to pick on today's form, you cannot pick anyone from Japan, right? And you cannot pick anyone who's injured at the moment. So for me, Jordy is our incumbent. The only thing I do talk about, and it'll be an interesting conversation going forward, I believe we've got a wealth of talent and we need to settle on a 15 that's going to win us the World Cup in the last 15 minutes under pressure, because you've got a combination. Yep. And that's hard. That's hard for Ian Foster and the coaching staff, because you have to play. We've only got 18 test matches. So I would rather play Jordy for, say, 14 of those and then have someone else mixing in so that he knows exactly who he's playing with. I think combination is something we need to think about.
Plenty to think about. This debate is going to rage on, I can tell, for the next 18 months. If you want to join the conversation, go on to our Sky Sport Rugby page on Instagram and you can vote for who you think will be the best fullback at the moment for New Zealand. Well, we've got plenty of star power in New Zealand. The Aussies are struggling. So, Jeff, where the bloody hell are they?
I know where they are. Where are they?
I think Damien McKenzie just beat a few
They're
of them, didn't
overseas. And this is a real challenge for me, is the fact that we're doing a great job here in New Zealand of securing the majority of our talent. But these guys, and I can name another couple, the likes of a Liam Gilbert, you got Rory Arnold, you got Quade Cooper, clearly Samu Kerevi, Marika Kuribeti has gone from last season, Tolulatu, and then Sean McMahon, Will Skelton's playing in France. Look, the number of quality players that they don't have at the moment in Australia, Marshy, I think is definitely weakening their Super Rugby sides. Michael Hooper's not playing at the moment. Andrew Callaway's not playing, who was outstanding last year. But because they've got 5 teams, and then you remove this level of talent from across those sides, I think it's damaging, I think, their Super Rugby chances, but also some of their confidence as players, because they're just not here to make these connections with these guys. And the fact, and we need superstars in the game.
Yes.
We've got Artie Savia on the top of his game. He's a superstar. Will Jordan playing fantastic rugby. At the moment, I'm looking across the Tasman and I'm going, where are they? Where are the game changers? Where are the guys that we want to come and watch? So it's going to be a more even competition.
And it's going to strengthen their depth. And you won't see the fall-off that we've got with the Melbourne Rebels this year, because you'll be able to inject some of those players into that mix. Brings out the best in other players, creates competition within a competition. Even in the same team like the Reds, you know, for example, if Quade Cooper was to come back there, he'd have to get rid of James O'Connor at the moment, who I thought was simply outstanding.
Yeah, the Rebels could do with James O'Connor, though,
absolutely.
or Quade Cooper. I mean, that's the problem we've got.
Yeah,
they're not. I don't think they're getting the internal competition they need either.
No.
When you've got that many quality players offshore.
Yeah, and that's where we're very good.
Waste of argument, people. You're wasting your breath.
Why are we wasting our breath? Because we're talking about trying to create a world-class competition.
We've had this discussion before about Australia dropping a franchise. They don't want to do it, and it's going to kill their own rugby. I mean, you go over there and you have massive arguments. They go, no, we need these franchises. We tried to get rid of was it the Force? Oh, we did.
Yep.
Got rid of the Force and they blew up and they started playing in a different competition backed by the oil millionaire, no, the mining millionaire. Look, they cannot afford to keep their pro. Their Corin Betty, if you watched that Suntory game, passed the ball to Damien McKenzie twice in that game. So they have made a decision, and I think it's the wrong decision because they're letting their players play overseas, but it's damaging their rugby, and they're not going to have the courage to actually drop a franchise. What's going to happen? They're going to get pumped again in the Super Rugby.
I just think it's critical.
Their choice, their strategic choice from their politicians. Right thing for the game? Right thing for the fans?
Well, I just think, as we've seen it, Marshy, there's a reason, the fact that they haven't got to the end of Super Rugby, and usually Bledisloe Cup runs around really quickly. There's a quick turnaround after those tests in the middle of the year. They usually compete well. By the time they get to us, most of their guys have hit a wall. They've been playing in every single game, and bottom line, that they just haven't played together enough to be able to be competitive. And then they're rolling guys back in from overseas. I just think there's a real danger for me if they don't find a way to keep more of their talent. Because I know.
So what do they do?
I know a number of their top under 20 players.
Do they keep the superstars or drop a franchise?
Well, drop a franchise. You get enough money if you dropped a franchise. But what I'm saying is there's a number of under 20 players they've chosen when they're 21, 22 to go to Japan. They've gone, you know what? My future is over here, not getting the opportunity. I'm getting beaten up every week. I just think it's really, really... I think it's really important that they find a way to change their depth, or they've got to drop a team in a couple of years' time, because we've got a couple of teams that put their hand up already on the weekend and they can play.
Yeah.
Well, is it a bit deeper than that? Do they need to start looking at some of their grassroots and actually see what their pathway is?
They'll always have to do that. They'll always face those challenges there. And helping those grassroots is having those X Factor, those Wallabies, those big names on the field, so that those younger players are going along and watching them. It's a big problem for them, but yeah, there needs to be some answers. We've created more questions than answers.
You have, indeed.
We need them, though. We need our Australian cousins. We want them good and informed.
Of course we do.
Good questions, though. I've got another question for you, and you can play at home as well. This is your trivia question for this week, so have a think about it. Rowan Smith is the first man to play for all 5 Australian Super Rugby franchises. Who has played for 4 in New Zealand?
To answer now?
Wait.
I wanted to hear your buzzer again.
Oh, no, I'm pretty confident on it.
I'm pretty confident.
Okay,
You confident,
okay.
Marshy?
Well, have a think about it. It is not this guy. That's your only clue.
Goes to Coltman. He decides to shift it on. Nonu had a couple of goals. And Nonu goes sailing through to score. Short ball for Nonu. He doesn't need anybody else. And here's an opportunity as Pulu has it. Intercepted, and it's all over here. Nonu, that will be try number 50.
Welcome back to The Breakdown. We're always asking the hard questions here. Your trivia question for this week. Ruan Smith is the first man to play for all 5 Australian Super Rugby sides. Who has played for 4 in New Zealand? JK 100% knows. He is confident as always.
So confident.
Marshy needs a clue. It's more than one player.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
Well, that makes it even worse.
Holy
'Cause we can't get one.
Got that.
did you see the look on my face there? That's blowing me away.
I was going to give
I
you
haven't got a clue.
I was going to start singing my Marist Club song to give you a hint.
Oh, really?
You can still do that, JK.
Marist is on the move, my boys. Marist is on the
We haven't got enough for
Doug
this.
Howlett.
Enough time for this.
Dougie Howlett.
Is it Dougie?
There you go.
No.
Hey! Sonny Bill?
No.
He played for 3.
It was Doug Howlett.
4
He
clubs.
played for 4.
Sonny played for 3. I couldn't
4
think.
to
Well, should we bring the list up, shall we? If
Is
you
there a
don't
list?
believe me,
Honestly, it-
believe Jim Case, because he is
Oh, Jim
adamant
Case.
Oh, I
that
don't
there is
trust Jim
only
Case.
3 players. Here they
played with
are.
Talatini.
You should have known that. I thought
Hayden
you would have
Triggs,
got
I should have
that.
known Hayden. He played for me. But
I only cared about the
Big
fact he
Triggs.
played for the Highlanders. Everywhere he went after that. Hayden Triggs and Danny Lee.
There is your 3.
Triggers.
There-
Can we double check that, please? I need to double check because I'm pretty sure that
Howlett
Doug Howlett did
is
as well.
No, he didn't.
Highlanders, Hurricanes, Blues.
Yeah, he is. But
I think he was an injury replacement early in his career, if you'll go and have a look.
Well, you called Jim Case out for that, JK. Hopefully you got that one. Hopefully you were more successful than these guys, because none of them got it this week. The points have been taken off the table, but we will play again next week. And if you would like to send your question in, email thebreakdown@sky.co.nz. Time to bring in our Super Rugby All-Picky reporter, Taylor Curtis. Great to have you on the program again. Tell us, how will these teams be feeling? We had a false start over the weekend, but officially the competition will kick off, hopefully, on Thursday.
Well, how good was it yesterday? Even a glimpse of it on pre-season. But these teams, you know, they might be that feeling of, you know, touch and go whether or not this competition will go ahead. But they're all just amped to get it going. I caught up with some of the Blues players on FaceTime and everything, and they just said that they saw the Matatu in the Chiefs game, and they just can't wait to get it out themselves.
So, Taylor, there's a number of players obviously aren't going to be available for this first week. And what was to stop New Zealand Rugby pushing it back, just so maybe they could get some more security, get more processes in place, or was there just no other opportunity to play this tournament?
I feel like there was just not enough time to put those things in place. The numbers of COVID were, you know, they were skyrocketing, but they needed to get them to Taupo, get them in safe in that bubble, and that way they could control it. And obviously, if you look at the sport calendar of the year, we've got the Commonwealth coming up, and some of the Sevens girls might want to have a crack at that as well.
I mean, the bubble is really important, and I heard that some of the mums are taking their kids. That's fantastic. I think it's awesome, but how does that work?
Yeah, well, they're probably used to taking their kids away with them for games we saw in the FPC, and then during the camps leading up to this competition, we had Charmaine Smith take her wee baby along to the camp. So everyone's used to having the baby around, and then they are in their own little bubbles now with their teammates, so she's got heaps of hands on board.
I really enjoyed the emotion to see them go out there for the first time, even though it was only a pre-season game, and really intrigued by the haka. The images have been going in the background of you. Is that something that's going to be regular, or was just a one-off for the pre-season?
I would say that it would be happening every game. You know, like every team has taken it on themselves to learn a haka, and the roster and rotation on the players that get a chance to go out there, they get to experience that as well, and what an amazing opportunity to do that.
Before we let you go, Taylor, just one final question. Do we actually know how bad COVID is? We saw the Hurricanes Poa be pulled out of the game of 3 halves on the weekend. The Blues have been interrupted as well. How bad is it?
I guess it all really depends on player personnel in terms of positions as well. If you're going to get hit in the forward pack, then you're losing your whole forward pack, you know, your front rowers. But then we saw from Matatu, they've got Lucy Anderson. She slotted in in the front row from 8, and she can play midfield as well. Wow. So they've got some versatility out there.
Amazing. Taylor Curtis, thank you so much, and we cannot wait for Thursday. Plenty more action coming up in a week's time. Round 4 already. I don't know where the last month has gone, but a big game on Saturday. Chiefs Crusaders down in Christchurch, Marshy.
It'll be a fantastic game. They just keep rolling out week to week, don't they? Can't wait for another round.
Yeah, Blues taking on the Highlanders. Highlanders need a victory. JK's already licking his lips.
Highlanders will be desperate. I was interested in what Brownie said, and I haven't seen them play without Mojo Goldie for a long time. You know,
they'll be back this week just for you. They are back just for you. It's QBE Stadium, I think. That's where this is going to be on Friday night. I'll be there. You'll be there. It's game on.
Oh, game on between these two. We look forward to it. Moana taking on the Hurricanes as well. Great to have you joining us again tonight. Brilliant work as always, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Look at McCutcheon strong. Here we come on up Pacifica. Tuala shifting it on. They're going to score. Charged by Satutu. Well, Satutu's got a chance. Loose ball. That could be a Blues try. Pero Feta. Well, he's been dangerous all day. He can set it up for Talia. Talia's in for the try. And the score's a level. Oh, a caller gets away to Brent. Where's in for second?
The Highlanders pile the pressure on.
Wow. How good.
Slow charging onto it. Blackwell away for Love. Rackety stones it up in space, and the big prop board is in. Boy, that's a good try.